Want to go far in business and in life? You can't do it alone. The secret is expanding your network of personal relationships, building friendships, connecting on an intimate level, away from the office, over a coffee or cocktail. Welcome to All In with the real Nate Payo. The show that asks what happens when you go all in and leverage the power of your network of personal relationships.
From author Donnie Bovine comes the book, How to Be a Success Champion, available on Amazon. After years of living other people's dreams, author Donnie Bovine decided to jump out on his own and start a business, thinking it would be easy. Instead, he had a rude awakening and quickly understood that he had spent 20 years being an employee and had no idea how to be a business owner. His business was tanking, and he was on the brink of losing everything when he decided to fight for business freedom. In this must-read and life-changing book, author Donnie Bovine shares with readers his story intermingled with lessons learned from his mistakes and his failures. In How to Be a Success Champion, you will find advice the author received from mentors and how he went from zero to a six-figure business. The author walks you through the steps of how to get out of your own way, how to play the game of business and win, find your strengths, how to network effectively, how to build a personal brand, how to create champions for your business, how to get great at sales, how to take complete ownership of you and your business. How to Be a Success Champion from author Donnie Bovine, available on Amazon in both Kindle and paperback editions. Order your copy right now. It makes a great book for corporate events too. How to Be a Success Champion from author Donnie Bovine, available on Amazon.
Hello, hello. Welcome to the All In podcast with Nate Payo. I am your host, Nate Payo. Today, I'm joined with Wendy Covey, and she's the CEO of a successful technical marketing agency. She's an author, a podcast host, and get this, she's also holding a Texas fishing record for one of the largest redfish caught in the state of Texas ever. Over the last 20 years, she's helped hundreds of technical companies build trust and fill their pipelines through content marketing. Her new book, Content Marketing Engineered, and her podcast of the same name helps technical marketers looking to adapt or improve their content marketing programs. So welcome to the show, Wendy. How are you?
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. I'm doing really well. It's a beautiful day in Austin, Texas.
Yes, it's awesome. And we were chatting a little bit before the show, and you put in this Texas fishing record. And I think what that does is it sets you apart of like a reminder. So I was like, okay, Wendy's going to be on it a little bit. I'm going to pull up the podcast notes. Like, where did we meet? You know, kind of get a refresher. And it's like fishing record. I know exactly who Wendy is, like right off the bat. Like it's like a reminder of like associating somebody with another way of doing it. So sometimes people say like, oh, I can never remember people's names and stuff like that. And if you kind of like associate like random facts with it, then like it's like super easy. Like I'll never forget Wendy's the fishing record person, you know?
I love how you see it as a good marketing ploy rather than how my friends see it, which is just me bragging. How can she brag in as many places as possible? So either way, I'm glad you thought of it. I love to fish.
One of the things for me, it's like, this is a show about networking. I think networking is about making yourself relatable to other people, you know? So if you just said, I'm technical marketer, you know, it's like, okay, well, she's kind of stuffy. Like, what's she all about? She all business, all serious. But you're like, she likes fishing, and there's humor in the way you describe like how you went about doing it. So it's like, okay, I'm seeing another side of your personality. And so the more I think sides of yourself that you show to people, the more relatable you are to somebody, and you're like, hey, that's kind of cool, and it's an easy way to start up a conversation. So you know, if one of the things I always tell people, like, hey, if you're trying to make a connection with somebody digitally, or email them, or even get in person, like it's about providing something of value, and like finding a little nugget, little way in to introduce yourself to them is a great way. So if like I was trying to connect with you, I saw the fishing record, it's easy for me to craft a message that's going to stand out from the crowd of going, hey, I'm interested in what you're doing, and here's some useful tips. So I think it's definitely important to share all sides of your personality to make yourself a bit more
Yeah,
relatable.
we're all people, right? We're not just our titles on LinkedIn. And yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah. So my first question to you, and there probably is some luck in catching the biggest fish, and I don't want the whole show to be about your catching your fish, but there's this word I usually use to start off a little conversation, and it's the word luck. What does the word luck mean to you? Are people lucky?
I think that yes, people are lucky, but to me, you have to apply a percentage to this and say there's 10% that the world is given to you that you can define as luck, but the other 90% is what you do with that opportunity. And it's a lot of hard work. I'm the parent of 2 teenagers right now, and I can't emphasize that to them enough. They have a lot going for them. They have some gifts and abilities and wonderful circumstances that have been brought to their door. But it's up to them to make something with it, and it's hard work. You have to really put the sweat equity in to make something happen.
Yeah, the luck just the opportunities are there, but you're right. You do have to put in the hard work to take advantage of them. You have to be observant that they're there, and and recognize like the blessings you're given, and take them and run with them. So definitely a good take on luck. So you've written a book, content marketing engineered, and this is geared towards technical marketers. So can you walk a little bit through what a technical marketer is, and a little bit about the book, and who, and maybe some of the principles that are people could find in that book?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. And maybe the best way to do this is to give you my backstory.
Yes.
So I graduated college with a journalism degree and a marketing minor, and out there trying to find that perfect job. And I found this company that hired me to plan events, and I thought, oh my gosh, wait, someone's going to pay me for planning parties. It's perfect. My 21-year-old self thinking of it that way, and actually what it was a job where I was planning conferences and trade shows for this highly technical company. And I go into this job and I'm thrown in needing to learn a lot of new areas of marketing that I wasn't exposed to in college. And at the same time, trying to learn what the heck this company does, what all these acronyms are. The company did test and measurement in manufacturing. So think like testing the parts of your airplane or automobile or all the things that you interact with in your life. And I didn't know anything about this. I don't have an engineering background. And so it was very daunting to hone my marketing skills and at the same time have to learn all this technical stuff. And so fast forward to today, as we know, marketing has changed tremendously with the internet and social media and all these new digital tools. Mm-hmm. So it can be a really big challenge for marketers that need to keep up with the ever-changing landscape of marketing. And again, at the same time, figure out how to connect with technical buyers. Because if you know engineers, and I'm sure you have some engineer friends in your life, right?
Yes.
Do they have an interesting personality, some of them, perhaps?
they're a bit dry, but they're also fun. And
yeah. Oh, absolutely. But maybe analytical, skeptical. Very. There's definitely a persona to this type of person, and it's not a bad one, but it means that your approach in marketing has to be pretty nuanced for this type of buyer, unlike your regular B2B buyer. Mm-hmm. So the way you message to them, the way you package content, the way you go about addressing them along their buyer's journey, it's just different. And so this book and what my agency True Marketing does is help these marketers to connect with these buyers as they go through their buyer's journey, knowing how nuanced this audience is.
Mm-hmm. And you're right, though, like the way marketing has evolved quite a bit. Like everybody's thinking marketing social media, it's about being on Instagram, it's about being on Facebook and LinkedIn. But when you have a technical product, and in my day job, I buy, I guess, what you'd consider a lot of technical products, which is flooring, appliances, cabinets, valves, stuff that's not like super exciting and glamorous. And you're not going to go and have a social media page for, a valve. Like it's not going to happen. But at the same time, when you go to somebody's website and it's like a website from, 2002, and it's just the company's address and like, their company history story, but you have no information on the products, or you can't find it, or you get a download to some PDF data links. It's just like boring, cut sheets on stuff. It's like, hey, there definitely needs to be a better way of telling the story, because a lot of the purchasing process, I'm sure you're around this a lot, it's not always, well, it's very rarely a what's the word for it? If you're at the grocery store and you like grab impulse, you rarely make an impulse purchase. It's like, hey, I want to make sure that I'm comparing all products that are equal. So if I'm making a choice and buying a valve, I'm looking at 3 manufacturers, and they have little bits, goods and bad, and you go, okay, so what's equal? And then it's a lot about the relationships you meet with the people that are selling it, and who you can call on to, if there's a problem, are they going to stand behind it? And so you're kind of vetting all that stuff out, and the marketing comes into a big time, because one, if all those points aren't online, it's like your confidence level as a buyer drops. Like if I go and I meet somebody that's really great, and the appearance, they look like they have a good product, but they have bad marketing materials and data, then you're just like,
it matters.
This isn't going to go, and vice versa. Yeah. I have the best website and the best data, but I have, untrustworthy salespeople at the same time. It's like, that's not going to work either. So you got to have a bit of both. How do
Absolutely.
How do you weave trust,
that? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go on with your word trust.
Oh, I was just the word trust is so important here, because a lot of technical buyers are making decisions that affect safety. The things that go into products. Think about a chip that goes onto a board that ends up controlling something really important in your car, or a chip that goes into a pacemaker that provides information about how your heart is performing. You have some critical things that these engineers are working on. And so they have to find trusted resources to educate themselves, as well as have vendors they can trust. And so all of that trust is built by content and being generous with what you share. So it's about differentiation, but also being trustworthy.
Yeah, there's definitely some of that too. And on the flip side of it, like when you're writing technical marketing documents, you have to be very cautious. Like you said, if it's something that's life safety, what you write on that piece of paper can come back to haunt you. If it's, just simple words of like, this should have been an and instead of a but, or something like simple as that. And all of a sudden, if you had like a failure of the product, then they're going to go back and say, you misrepresented something, that the company could be liable for catastrophic damages if they're not careful of doing it. So it's a very complex area of marketing, but it's definitely needed. Like, how do you start working with clients and giving them guidance on what they should be doing and not be doing?
Yeah. So I'll tell you a little bit about how I do it in the book, and then how it's different working with an agency. So basically, I'm here to help marketers targeting technical audiences. And some of those will need us on the agency side as like full service, like, hey, True Marketing, come in and just be our consultant or be our full marketing department. So we do a lot of that. And then other marketers are simply looking for, do-it-yourself advice. And so that's why I created the book, Content Marketing Engineered. And if you walk through the process, so on either side of the coin, the first thing you need to know is who your target audience is, or buyer persona. And so we walk through developing buyer personas, which is very specific. Who is this person? What is their job title? What is their gender? How old are they? What are the pain points that they're trying to address with their job? Where do they go to seek information? And to do this process, it's really helpful to bring in the salespeople, because they're closest to that client and can answer this. And we tend to even put names by them. So, there might be procurement Pete, or safety engineer Sal, or something like that. And that way it becomes memorable within the company, like, oh, this is a Sal, this is a Pete. And so from persona development, you then start to do your other pieces of strategic planning, which is brand positioning and messaging for your company and your solutions. And then it's also developing a marketing plan. And you'd be surprised how many companies think they have a marketing plan, but they really have just an Excel spreadsheet list of activities, and it's not strategic, it's not integrated, it's not thoughtful of the personas. So those are the key strategy pieces. And then you walk into content development, website redesigns, and then all the ways to drive traffic to your website. So that gets into social, into advertising, into a lot of optimization on and off page. Mm-hmm. And then once you get somebody to your page, how do you build trust? How do you capture their name utilizing, high value content? And once you have their name, you can start email marketing, building that list, nurturing people. And in particular, with a technical purchase, there may be a really long lead time, like 18 months from that first contact to when they're ready to make a purchase. Mm-hmm. So imagine the power of email during that 18 months to stay top of mind in an efficient way and still be personalized with your communications.
Yeah, you do have to balance that relationship, because a lot of times it takes time, especially if like you're trying to get new business. Like if you're trying to bump off your competitor, it's not going to happen overnight. Like, oh, I got this nice email. Like, looks good to me. Let's switch you out. It's going to take developing the relationship. It's going to take time. It's going to be like testing. It's going to be conversations. It's a lot of times it happens when the person that you're currently using isn't performing up to speed, and you're like, mm-hmm. I got a little bit of frustration. Who's been kind of, chirping in my ear this whole time? Right. Like, all right, now's your chance to do it. So you do have to have the right message crafted, and the balance between, useful, helpful emails, or getting one or two every day in your email box. It just ends up in the spam, and you're like, who keeps emailing me?
Yeah, that's way too much, way too much. But it's a good description, or I guess example, because we have that oftentimes with true marketing, where someone will be in our database 3 or 4 years, and we'll get a call, and they'll start with, I love your content. I've learned so much. Thank you for your generosity. And, oh, I've been using this other agency. All these things have gone wrong, and I know it's time to switch. And I know that this technical audience, so let's talk. And it's just, we haven't been calling them. It hasn't been some sales engagement where we're knocking on the door. We've just been quietly nurturing them with high quality content. Yeah. It's a very efficient and nice sales relationship when they do finally call. Think how dreamy that is for the salesperson to, mm-hmm. Have someone knocking on their door.
Well, it helps too when you show people like what you do in like a threatening, non-pressure environment. You're just like, This is what our expertise is. This is who we are. We're here if you need us, and you see it consistently come through, and you're not having to go back and you're like, hey, if I called you out of the blue after seeing these 4 years of emails, you don't have to sit there and pitch me on like how great your company is. Like, I came to you. Like, now it's really like, let's work on the problem you have and find a solution. So there's definitely and I think people, a lot of times, some of the companies I talk to are technical driven companies, and the people that built the business are very technical, and they just they understand engineering, they understand data, they understand how to build a product, but they don't understand sales channels, they don't understand marketing, and they don't understand building relationships. And I work with this guy on occasion, and he's an engineer, and he created this awesome product. And he goes, when I used to be in engineering all alone, I'd be like, well, why do we need sales and marketing people? Because if I have a great product, people will buy it. But people don't know.
Isn't that cute? Isn't that cute that someone thinks it's that easy?
Yeah. And after he started his own company, he's like, I realized that you do have to be able to tell your story. And even it's like, even if you're selling, non-glamorous, non-sexy goods or products, like, you still have a story to tell that can be compelling, that you can walk them through this, like, here's your pain points, here's the solution, here's how we differentiate each other, and tell your story in a fashion that people are like, I'm really on board with what you're doing. And you describe my problem very well. It seems like the right fit. Let's engage in the next steps. Because like you said, it's not something that happens overnight where you give me the elevator pitch. I'm like, I'm sold. Give me 100. It's like, okay, well, let's try it. We got to make sure that it all fits together and how it's going to come together. There's going to be problems. We got to work through those problems and iron out the bugs so that when we do release, it's a smooth sailing. So it's definitely a very important topic that I think a lot of people in technical world, don't get the value of it until they are forced to.
I'm glad you brought up the engineer business owner, because that's one of our personas for True Marketing. So you think about the people that call us up and are interested in our services, and they really fall into two camps: the Marcom manager, the marketing manager that's overwhelmed, needs help, or augment their skill set, and then you have the engineer business leader. And I talk to both equally in my day-to-day job, but you can imagine how different those conversations are. And that engineer business owner doesn't understand how marketing's changed. Maybe they're going to trade shows, or at least they were, until all the pandemic hit, and maybe doing a little bit of advertising, but heavily reliant on referrals and on, like you said, the product to speak for themselves. And so it takes a lot of education on how this works, building trust, using content, and then how Google works, and how you don't just get to page one overnight. And there's this virtuous effect that happens when you produce high quality content over time, but it's not an immediate ROI, right? It doesn't happen right away. It's a long-term play. But then it's like an annuity. It keeps on paying. And so there's a lot of conversations about ROI that have to happen to that persona to truly understand that, okay, this is like a journey here, a commitment, but it's to the betterment of the long-term growth of the company.
So that leads me to my next question, which is when you're talking to a new prospective client, and they're debating with doing this or not doing this, and you want them to get, I guess, all in on it and say, hey, this is something you need to do. It's not something you do as a hobby. But to you, what does the words all in mean to you in regards to like an idea or an outcome?
Yeah, gosh, great question. I have two ways of answering that. So when I'm talking to a prospective client, we have a client rating criteria, and it used to be 17 points. We boiled it down a little bit, but we looked around and said, who are the clients we enjoy working with the best? Where do we have the most profitable relationships on both sides? Where do we have a good win-win? And who are we retaining over time? And we looked at that profile and we said, okay, the people that we enjoy working with the best are all in to this philosophy of marketing, this way of doing content marketing. So they're not the ones throwing all their money at Google AdWords or throwing all their money into 40 trade shows a year. They are committed to content marketing. They see how it'll help their business. So we have this philosophical agreement, and then everything flows from there. Now you have a team that's all aligned towards the same goals, and you can, go and execute and make things happen. If we still have this friction and they're not all in on this, this philosophy, those go by the wayside, and it's a waste of everyone's time and money. So that's my all in on the client side. And then of course, you've probably figured out my all in for the agency, which is if someone comes knocking to my door and they're a B2C company or they're outside of our niche, I run away as fast as possible. So I'll refer them to other people, but we've always had the philosophy since the first year of the company to say no to grow and just turn down business that's not directly in our niche so that we can stay focused on what we do best.
That is a huge bit of value right there. Is I think especially anybody that's doing anything with business has been a point in their life where they go, I need more customers. And they take on whoever they can get. And what ends up happening is you get a bad customer and they take up 80, 90% of your time, and they make you hate your job. They make you hate what you do, and you just want to get rid of them so bad. And you're not able to support the ones that really you can support, you can provide the best value to, and they're growing and you're growing together. And it's the worst. So I think having very selective criteria on who your customer is, or who you want to work with. They don't even have to be your customer, but like people you want to have in your life, people you want to work with, people you want to have on your team as employees. It's so critical to have the right people that bring the right dynamics. And it's not just like, hey, I want to have, you're just like me. We look the same. We talk the same. We went to the same high school. We live down the street. You want to have people that complement each other's values, complement each other's strengths, complement each other's weaknesses, and bring different ideas to the table. But you do have to be very specific on who that person is, and what did you say? The deal killers. Though, if you're not in alignment, then you're out.
Yeah, and we follow it. And I'll tell you. So back when I first started Shoe Marketing with a business partner of mine, and we started during the Great Recession, which I guess looking back is kind of funny now that we're in this environment we're in now. But that's when we launched, and right before. And 6 months into it, was where everything hit, and we're like, oh my gosh, we have this new business and, this recession, what are we going to do? And it made us look inwardly and say, okay, who do we want to have as our next 5 customers? Mm-hmm. Like, forget who's knocking at our door. Who is the right person? Who do we want knocking at the door? And we knew that all of our experience, all of our relationships that we cultivated, they were all surrounding marketing to engineers, like all of it, because we worked at this big company together and had made, and I know networking is a really big focus of your show. We looked at our personal and professional networks, and they were all clustered in this area. Mm-hmm. And so that's when we put the stake in the ground and said, nope, we're only going to work with engineers and technical audiences, targeting that area. And once we did, man, business just took off. Mm-hmm. It was a huge differentiator for us. We ended up winning. I was happy to be named the Wall Street Journal Innovative Entrepreneur, one of 15. And you know what it was? It wasn't a big idea. It was just saying no to grow. Mm-hmm. And that was considered innovative because people don't do it. People don't have the discipline to do it. And I'm here to say it works.
Yeah, and I think you might look at it and go, "Oh, we started our business at like the worst possible time," but I don't think that's the case, because if you didn't have those challenges of like, "Hey, what are we going to do?" Yeah, you don't like search for the solutions. It's like we used to always work for this company, and we always said, like, if you're on a really good job, a really well performing job, you didn't learn that much because a lot of the stuff just went smoothly. You just were along for the ride, and you showed up every day, and like you get the accolades because the project was going. But when you're on a project that was working poorly, it was losing money, you have to be very creative in your solutions to solve problems because you don't have a ton of resources, and you're under the watchful eye. And that's basically starting your business in a downturn, is like you don't have the luxury of just having people showing up your door and taking orders. You have to really get down, get nichey, and just go. And I think people it's a hard thing to decide to go, hey, I want to be niche. I want to have this really specific audience, because a lot of times when you're starting, you don't know your audience. You just kind of are trying to figure it out. So you go, well, everybody. And everybody knows if everybody's your audience and nobody's your audience. But, exactly. But you're like, well, I don't want to exclude this person. I don't want to exclude that. But drawing that line in the sand just goes. But what it also does too is if somebody finds you and they know specifically who you're looking for, it's like, hey, I have a business that sells shoes. Obviously, we're not going to work together because I'm not your core clients, but I know people that make manufacturing facilities and they make parts for manufacturing equipment, and they would be your client. So like, just you when you're very specific too, then it also lets people know, hey, I can't work with you. I would love to, but I know some people that could, and that's very beneficial too. So you've described it in a little bit of detail, but can you go into just really very specifics on who that exact client is that's your ideal client that you work with?
Yeah, so we work with what we describe as middle market companies. So generally in the $10 to $200 million range in revenue, that are targeting technical audiences. And there's a few different areas where our clients are clustered. So design engineering, test and measurement, control and automation, manufacturing technology. Those are client concentrations of ours. So, the more deeply technical the solution is, the better we shine, because it gets so difficult to write content for something that, like I said, the chip on the board that goes into the thing that goes into the other thing that becomes this product on your wall, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we have the technical chops to be able to write for that highly technical product. Now, that isn't to say we don't have some of the lower tech clients, like you mentioned valves earlier, and we have a valve client, and again, weave stories about how they're different as a valve provider. And there's a very wonderful story that goes with that if we have more time. But yeah, that's who we work with. And then within that, we serve these companies in two ways. We either augment their internal marketing people. So maybe they have one or two marketers, but they're not good at writing content, or they're not good at developing a strategy, but they're good at execution. So we would come in and complement them. And then the other side of the coin is the company has no marketing resources and then want us to come in and act as both the CMO, like a virtual CMO, as well as their execution arm. And we'll do that too.
Very cool. So I also want to make sure we give your book and your podcast some love too. So Content Marketing Engineered, who is that book written for? If I'm out there and you're describing me and I just got to go out and read that book, who am I?
Yeah, so mainly marketers in technical companies that either want to shift to a content marketing strategy or they want to make their marketing better. So they are already doing content marketing, but they sense that they could be, sharpening their pencil a little bit when it comes to optimization or nurturing along the buyer's funnel or sales enablement or measurement. Those would be the types of people that want to listen to the podcast, pick up the book. Certainly, engineer executives will learn things from reading the book as well. They probably skip over some of the how-to stuff and go right to the chapters on brand positioning and messaging, sales enablement, and ROI.
Awesome stuff. So where can people find you, get connected with you, find your book, find your podcast? Where should we send them?
So two main places, I guess three. So contentmarketingengineer.com is where you can go to find the podcast, order the book, find out more about me. And then my agency, True Marketing, is TREW Marketing. And you can find us at truemarketing.com. And then, of course, everyone who's an author better put their book up on Amazon. So you'll find me there as well.
Easy peasy. Find you on Amazon. So all those links will be listed in the show notes. So I encourage you to support Wendy. Get over there, check out our podcast, listen to it. I think that's a great way to get introduced to somebody and find out if their message is on point for you. Read the book, get the weeds, get the details. And then, hey, if it's a good fit, reach out to True Marketing and see if there's an opportunity to work together. Enjoyed having you on the show. Been a fantastic conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Make sure to visit our website, therealnatepeo.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, so you'll never miss an episode of All In. While you're at it, if you found value, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if simply tell two friends about the show. Looking to connect? You can find Nate Peo on LinkedIn or Instagram.